So we have the answer for number 2 here, where you can see the outcome of 25 billion is the amount by which taxes have to change with the tax multiplier. For number 3, though, instead of the tax multiplier, they want us to do a change in remember we said not transfer. They want to change in spending instead. And so in this particular problem, then we have to use these spending multipliers that we didn't calculate. The spending multipliers are 1 divided by the MPS. And so that means then that this is going to be 1 divided by 0.5 for 2. And then this would be 1 divided by 0.25 for 4. This is 1 divided by 0.2 for 5. And then this is 1 divided by 0.1 for 10. Notice the spending multiplier is always bigger than the equivalent tax multiplier. That's a little trick that will come up. Spending multiplier is always bigger than the tax multiplier. So for our number 3 then that we're taking a look at here, they tell us that we want to close the gap in the economy. Now let's look at this and let's make sure that we know what kind of gap we're seeing here. Here's where we are. This is where we ought to be. That means this is what we call a recessionary gap. And so to fix a recessionary gap, we need to use what's called expansionary fiscal policy. That could be government spending going up. That could be taxes going down. So looking then over at all the math over here, it says MPC's 0.9. We're using the spending multiplier. So why don't we just do that right now? The spending multiplier is 1 divided by MPS. That equals your government spending or just plain spending multiplier. So that's 1 divided by 0.1. So the multiplier in this equals 10. That we're going to need that. So we might as well just do it now. Now that does jive with what I did down here. So we're okay. So how large is the gap? This is an $81 billion gap, 81 billion. This is a goofy number, but since we have a multiplier of 10, that's going to be okay. And so finally it says, what is the amount and direction of the change in, remember, we're using spending, needed to close the gap. And so what that means is that they want us to increase our government spending, and then that's going to lead to the aggregate demand increasing, because that's going to close the gap. We want to get back to here. So we don't need to spend that full 81 billion. Remember, the multiplier is this item that lets the money spin through the economy. It doesn't let it tracks. Like I said before, if I spend $5 on a tip for somebody, they're going to spend that $5 maybe on food at Subway, and then Subway pays their employees. And so the same money is getting spent over and over and over. The multiplier is just a fancy way of tracking that. And so if government spending is going to increase aggregate demand, we don't need to go a full 81 billion to boost the aggregate demand. We only need to go a small amount times the multiplier. And so to set this up then, our desired outcome is 81 billion. So 81 billion times the change in government spending, equals the change in government spending times the multiplier. So that 81 billion then is going to equal the change in government spending times 10, because the multiplier for this problem is 10. And so finally, we divide both sides by 10. That means 8.1 billion equals the required change in government spending. And so government spending needs to go up by 8.1 billion. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the answer to number 3.